Okay, welcome back to the Pastor Pod. We're glad you're back for another episode. My name is Jay, and I'm here with my good friend Josh, who's down in Venice, Florida. Josh, how is it going in Florida today?
It's good, man. We're having a great week. Can you believe we're on episode 9, by the way?
9. You call
We've
me
made it this
mid-drink.
far. I don't even know what to say. We've made it this far. What the average podcast doesn't go past 7. So I'm just really thankful we're here. We're still talking. We're able to see each other on Zoom. We're on YouTube. If you didn't know, if you ever want to join YouTube, but man, it's fun. It's going well here. God's been really good this last few weeks. The Braves won the World Series. I mean, what an amazing finish.
I was
super excited, super happy for the team.
I was happy for it.
Yeah, you kind of jumped on the bandwagon towards
No, I'm not a bandwagon fan.
But you jumped on the wagon trail.
No, I was very clear.
You came
about
along
that.
for the ride.
I was very clear about that on social media. I'm not a bandwagon fan. I'm just not a Houston fan. There's a difference in the two.
I think most of America would agree with you.
I'm just not a Houston fan, and I have to actually ask people if they could, let me know what was so good about Texas. And
did you get some answers?
No, it was pretty quiet. I was like, okay, maybe I'm right, and everybody wants.
I don't think I don't think I asked my brother Jeff. I should have texted him.
Is he from Texas?
Yeah, he. I don't think he listens to the podcast. I have to talk to him about that. Say, why don't you listen to my podcast, brother?
Right, you can watch it too, as you said.
Speaking of
watching, listen, you brought this to my attention. Apparently, there's someone who has heard the podcast and was like, "Man, I wonder what Jay looks like."
You have a big fan. You have a big fan down here in Venice.
I don't know about a big fan, but tell me a little. I think this is interesting.
No, we were talking. The kids are out. We had a little trunk or treat fun, and the kids are running around in their Elsa dresses, and I was dressed up like a pirate. I made a ring game, so the kids are throwing rings at this little pallet with Captain Hook hooks on it, and cool. It was amazing. I got to talk about scurvy, and I told a bunch of 3-year-olds to swap the deck, and they just walked away. But anyway, hanging out with my good friend, and his name's Brandon, and he said, "Hey, I listen to the podcast," and I'm like, "Oh wow, that's awesome, that's great. There's more people that listen to it than my mom and Jay's mom," and so we're just talking about some of our episodes, and just he had some great thoughts, and he's like, "I don't know what Jay looks like." I was like, "Well, here, let me show you on Facebook." I said, "No. I don't want to know." And I'm like, you just want to envision what he looks like? He's like, "Yeah, I want to keep it like what I think he looks like."
Fantastic. So Brandon, if you're listening, I am about 6'5", 220 pounds. And man, I am cut. You could grade cheese on my abs. No,
wow.
Brandon, I'm sorry.
Wow.
That's not what I look like, Brandon. But okay.
Pretty close there.
But
it's cool to hear from people listening in, and it's just encouraged that some of our discussions that he's discussed with some friends and family as well. So it's been cool to hear that.
Listen, speaking of that, John, do you go places and people think they know you? Like do you have a familiar face? Do you have one of those faces that's familiar?
No, I'm the guy that usually asks people, "Do I know you?" And I don't know them, and it's always awkward.
There's this thing that I have. I don't understand it. I was telling you earlier, I don't know how I get into situations. I was in London, England one time, and somebody walked up and was like, "Hey, I know you from, so-and-so." I'm like, I'm not even from this country. Right. Today I was at Home Depot, and this guy walks up, and I'm no joke. He's like, "Hey, why don't you have your uniform on?" I don't know who you are. I was looking at bolts. Like, I'm trying to put something off my daughter's. I was waiting for some paint and trying to put some something up for my daughter's room. I was looking at bolts, and he just kept pressing and made a scene in Home Depot. He swore I was a cop. At one point, he asked me to pull out my badge and show him. And then after this conversation, I go out in the parking lot, and I'm getting my Jeep. And as I'm driving off, this guy comes out from like in between cars and yells, "I know you are a cop." And I just keep driving, because at this point it's just getting weird. So apparently I look like a cop. Brandon, if you're listening,
I think you'd be a good one.
Like a cop.
I think you'd be a good one. I agree with this guy. But you never told him you're a pastor, right? You just never said.
I did. It was just, it was so weird. There was a guy who walked by.
I'm the spiritual police, sir.
I have
I serve
Oh,
the Lord. That'd have been really weird though. Don't say that.
that would have been extremely weird. So Josh, listen, today we're going to be talking about a topic that I think is everybody can relate to, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Social media.
Yeah.
Social media, right? And how should we use it? How, what are the do's, don'ts, whatever it may be. What let me start with this. What platforms are you on, Josh?
So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. I have a LinkedIn page, but I get weird emails from people
I don't
that
use
I don't
LinkedIn.
know what to say. I don't understand LinkedIn, but anyway, I'm on there. Uh, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Is there any more that I don't know? I don't. Those are the big three.
Well,
I'm
I
not on
can't tell you.
Snapchat. I'm not on TikTok. I'm not on that. I just not really, just not ready to dive
Obviously,
into
if
that.
you're calling
Yeah,
it tiki-taki, you're definitely not on
yeah. I
TikTok.
just made all the young people angry. That's not how you
No,
say
no,
it.
no. So Josh, and you're technically younger than me. I'm older
Well,
than you by
I
two
am younger.
years.
Yes,
By two
2 years.
years.
2. I thought it was 3.
No,
Because
it's two. I'm sure you're when what
well, I
how
turned 38 in January, so I'm and you're
you
40.
will in
I
January?
will turn 38 on January 30th.
Oh yeah, it's 3
Everyone
years.
write my
Dang it.
birthday down.
Dang
Send
it.
me some
Dang it.
candy corn.
So
But
yeah,
no,
so I've got you by 3 years. But I am
yeah.
on, so I have this thing, and I don't know what it is. I'm gonna be honest. Anytime something new comes out, social media wise, I have to get the username at jmud. And so even if I never do anything with it, I will go get j at jmud. I'm sure there's social platforms that I'm on that is at jmud that I don't even remember that I have, but I grabbed them because there's another J Mud out there that likes to get them before me, and we're in a battle, we're in a race.
Wow, this is like battle royale.
But I definitely I utilize Facebook, Instagram, and I don't even use Twitter that much. I don't use it as much. I use Instagram probably the most. I do have a
Mhm.
Snapchat, but that's because of my 13-year-old daughter.
Yep.
Don't get me started on that. I don't know what age is the right age to start. I'm new at this. I have my first teenager. I have 5 kids, but only one teenager that just
Hmm.
turned. I do have as you said, the tickety talk. I do have TikTok, but that's again because of my
Hmm.
teenager.
Yep.
I'd rather do those things with her versus her
Hmm.
doing her own thing at this stage of life.
Hmm.
And so, do you remember when you got your first social media?
Yeah, I remember back. Of course, if you're old enough, you remember MySpace. MySpace was an interesting place.
I had a friend named Tom.
Yeah, Tom was always there for me. He's always my top fan. He's always hanging out with his little T-shirt on. But no, I remember in college, we both went to the same college, but Baptist College of Florida. What? The Eagles, this little town in Graceville, Florida. A lot of
I was
peanuts and cotton, and we
little
had a
ahead of
Hardee's
you,
and a Subway.
but the Eagles were not at when I first got there. The Eagles did not exist. That
I, I
started
I don't even
later.
know if that really was our mascot, but I heard that we
Oh,
had
okay,
one.
got it, got it.
Yeah.
Well,
So
keep
anyway,
moving on. Sorry about that.
so you could only get on Facebook with a college email that ended with .edu. So
You're dating yourself.
we felt very special and very on top of the world that we could access this new world. There was even a website called Xanga, Xanga. It was like a blogging, networking, social media. If you were on Xanga, please respond. Let me know. It was a weird place too, and I remember it was weird to post a picture of yourself on Facebook. It felt very narcissistic at the time. Like, why am I posting pictures of myself for people to look at? At that time, it was like, this is kind of. But I noticed my wife Cassidy on Facebook, and so I was like, oh wow, she's got a Facebook, and it was just this new thing. So I do remember that it was just this brand new, crazy type of website. You put your face on it and you can look at your friends. And how about you?
So I was not. I was the opposite of you. I was not an early adopter in the sense of I saw my wife, my at the time she was my girlfriend, Holly, on Facebook, and I made fun of her for being on Facebook. It was like I made fun of her, and I made fun of just about anybody because I was like, this is so weird. For maybe the
Mm-hmm.
same reasons. Why would you put your
Yeah.
picture on
Yeah.
there?
Why do you need that?
Right. And
Yeah.
you spoke in third person. Like your statuses were in third person.
Yeah.
Jay is feeling bummed right now.
Yeah. What are you feeling about? What are you thinking about today?
Right.
I
And so it
like
was
donuts.
right. That was your status update. If you go
Mm-hmm.
back and look, and some of you have maybe, I don't know, depending on your age, you're looking back, you may not remember this.
Yes.
But then one day I came around and I sent my, at the time, girlfriend a friend request. And then she made fun of me. And that's kind of how the story went. But Facebook, yeah, obviously was the first go around. And then from there, it was just, I don't know if it was uphill or downhill in the fact that
Yeah.
I did this. So we have this whole world out there known as social media, and we could go around and around whether or not it is something that is right, something that is wrong. I have questions still to this day about, how old,
Hmm.
when do I start letting my teenage daughter participate
Right.
in social media? And honestly, I'd love to hear from, if there's someone listening who is older and been through this road of like teenagers and on social media. I'd love to hear from them.
Hmm.
Email
Yeah.
us. And Josh, I don't care if you hear, so thepastorpod at gmail.com. Email
Hmm.
us. We both get access to that. We both can read it. I'd love to hear feedback on when you should, when you shouldn't, because
Yeah.
in my mind, Josh, for a teenager, it's a dangerous world. And I,
Yeah.
the cliche, it's not that I don't trust my daughter. It's that I don't
Hmm.
trust the world out
Yeah.
there,
Yeah.
right? And so, think about that for a moment. Why would you say that? Why do we feel that way? Help me out. Why do I feel that way? I'm going to sit down here and listen. Why do I feel that way? Why do we feel like social media is dangerous?
Well, social media is, I've heard it said it's an extension of our identity. A lot of people blame social media that, oh, social media is what's wrong. And yes, there are some of the platforms are, I think, creepier than others that cause people to go down a dark place. But ultimately, social media is just a barometer on our lives. And so
Mm,
a lot of people use social media for unhealthy purposes. Like some people, it's all about posting a picture of your new outfit, or it's always workout pictures, and you're what they're doing is they're trying to get affirmation, or and many
mm,
times encouragement, and that's not necessarily a negative, but man, it can turn so quickly into a comparison battle.
mm,
I forget who said it, that social media is like the highlight reel. It's not really the behind the scenes. And sometimes people are real on social media, but comparison is the downfall, where we look at our lives, we compare what we're doing, vacations, whatever it is, you're comparing, and then envy is what takes root. And envy is the idea of is having sorrow over another person's good. It's not able to rejoice or with people who rejoice, and then also have compassion for people that are hurting. And so the other thing is social media can sometimes be viewed as a replacement of real life on life relationships, like
mm,
in front of each other, in each other's presence. And I found that people are very different online than they are in person. Like
mm,
online, some people are super bold and they're just like going at it, they're debating, and then you talk to them in person, like, hey, how's it going? They're like, oh, hey, so what's going on? How you guys doing? I'm fine. And you're like, wait a minute, who you are online is this brash, like loud, very opinionated person, but in person, it feels like that's not really, either way, it's like, who are you? Are you really being your true self?
mm.
And it could be a huge time waster. A lot of people scroll all day, and it just becomes this unhealthy habit. So there's just a couple things. What would you say?
Well, no, listen, I think I agree with everything you just said, and I think really what social media highlights, and I really do think I think it highlights what is honestly most important to us, because those are the things that
Mm-hmm.
we want the world to see.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
want people to know about us. And again, that's not always a negative thing. I mean, I tend to, I scroll, because I knew we were talking about this today.
Yeah.
I went through my social media. I was like, what do I post about? What do I post about? And there's a ton of pictures about with my family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's no
Yeah.
secret that I absolutely am crazy about my family. I'm grateful that
Mm-hmm.
God has blessed me with my family, and I'm crazy about them. And so that's what I post about.
That's right.
Right. I
Mm-hmm.
also post a lot of scripture and things like that, things from when I teach on the weekends.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at that, but I think that's what social media does. And so I think honestly, if you want a healthy idea of really who you're wanting the world to know about, is go look at your social media. Go
Yeah.
look at the
Oh,
things that you post. Go look at the things
right.
that you share. What does it say about who you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, well, some people spend a lot of time just focusing on politics and things like that,
Right.
which again, be you. I'm not trying to say somebody not to be you. That's what we're talking about, right? Don't not be you. But at the same time, it is a highlight. It is a indicator of really what's on your heart, what's passionate towards you, because those
Mhm.
are things that we put out there that we want people to see. And so I
Right.
think that's what we see. But like you were saying earlier, I think the caution of that is we look at it and we have to ask ourselves that question: are we really allowing the world to see who we truly are, or what we
Yeah.
are we trying to put up in front of, like, this is who we're supposed to be on
Yeah.
social media?
Yeah.
Who are we supposed to be? Because I think there's
Mhm.
also weird um this weird place where people are, this is who you're supposed to be, this is what you're supposed to look
Yeah,
like,
what
this
you're
is what you're
supposed to
supposed.
post. This is what you're yeah, I agree. It's like that tension and there's a competitiveness. There's a pressure that, oh, I need to post this. And you can see that happening. And here's the thing, you and me, we didn't grow up with this. I didn't
No.
grow up. I mean, when I was 12, I mean, there's no cell phones. There's,
Well, Josh,
dial-up
I grew up
internet. Dial-up internet was just kind of coming around when I was about 13. So it was this
right.
exciting, like loud screeching noise. And then you could have access to play this little weird game with a donkey that runs across the screen.
I
Like,
grew up with
wow, this is
AOL,
this new technology, you know?
AOL Messenger.
Yeah.
AOL
Yeah.
Messenger, and I could search for people around me and things like
Yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
But
That
again,
was a
I'm
big
not here
thing.
to date myself. What I'm saying is to
Oh,
simply,
you have.
oh yes, I have. But it's one of those things of like, this is the weird thing that I and again, I'm not sure I want my daughter comparing herself to others, right? I'm not
And
sure I
that's
want my
huge.
kids comparing themselves to others or falling to this camp where like they
Mm-hmm.
have to be somebody they're maybe
Yes.
even not.
Yeah.
And maybe that's happening. Maybe we pull back the curtain a little bit and
Yeah.
and understand that, like, they're social media. Let me go on the record of saying I am not communicating that social media is bad.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm saying. I don't. It's not necessarily bad. It's not wrong, but it can become unhealthy if we don't set up
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, right?
Yeah.
So, highlight in the news is Facebook made this statement, right? They are changing who they are. They are now Meta, right? And they're creating this virtual world. All right.
The metaverse, right?
Can I just say that I am feeling a little weird about the virtual world?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's become this tool now, and it's going to become this tool where we can pretend versus living in a kind of a reality type of world. And if I'm not careful, it'll allow it to run our lives. And I think we do need to set some boundaries, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
if we're not careful, we're going to live in this weird world and not live in reality. And it's gonna really shake up certain things. And I'm not like my old self who did not embrace technology. I absolutely love technology. I enjoy all the new gadgets. I want all the new gadgets. I can't have
Mm-hmm.
all the new gadgets, but that's me, right? I like the technology. I like different things.
Mm-hmm.
So that's not what I'm getting at. But we have to be careful here, because I believe if we're not careful, we're running really close into this world where social media is what's running our lives. We will be quick to check our Instagram or our Facebook before we ever check in with God in that morning, right?
Yep.
We'll scroll. The first thing I know too many people would tell me the first thing to do is grab their phone and they start scrolling in the
Yep.
mornings.
Mm-hmm.
And we gotta catch up. Like, what could
Mm-hmm.
possibly happen between 1 a.m. when you went to bed and 5 a.m. when you got up?
Yeah.
And honestly, the things that are happening in those hours probably is not what you want to see on
Right.
social
Right.
media. But that is literally what is happening right now, right? And again, I think there's this idea that we really need to be cautious. And now I'm going to speak specifically to those who are people of faith, those who are Christ followers.
Mm-hmm.
I think we also need to be cautious and set boundaries on what we're communicating
Mm-hmm.
online. You
Mm-hmm.
mentioned earlier, I think is wise. Like, online, you're bold and
Mm-hmm.
you're
Mm-hmm.
very kind of even maybe somewhat aggressive.
Oh yeah.
um
Mm-hmm.
Almost there's an empowerment when you're in front of a screen versus when you're in
Yeah.
front of a person.
Absolutely.
Your voice is bigger when you're
Mm-hmm.
online versus when you're um in
Mm-hmm.
person with someone. And
That's
I
right.
think there's a caution there, and there's something to be said about, okay, we have a struggle there
Yeah.
if I can't communicate in person, right? And so we have to understand the weight of what we put.
Mm-hmm.
When our fingers type, there's weight that comes with that,
Mm-hmm.
especially if we're going to promote ourselves as a Christ
Mm-hmm.
follower, right? And now if you're a pastor, there's even more of a caution here I want to encourage you with. If you're a pastor listening, or even a leader at a church in some
Yeah.
capacity,
Mm-hmm.
you have to understand. I tell my staff, listen, what you post on social media represents you, yes, but it also
Mhm.
represents this local church,
Yep. It
and it
represents
also
everything.
represents your faith in Christ.
Mhm.
And I think we need to be cautious with this, because I think sometimes we get to this point where, because I'm behind a screen, I get this attitude of, I really don't care what people think.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we should care what people think. And as a
Yeah.
pastor, remember,
Yeah.
we're supposed to live
Well,
above reproach, right?
one thing I've
Above
noticed,
reproach.
yeah, and the thing is, like, I love to have fun. I love using technology as well, Jay. And I enjoy social media for the most part. I mean, there's always the negatives that we're kind of talking about, but people reshare memes and things with filth words in them, and that are mocking a political person or whatever, that are people and that are serving the Lord, and they think, oh, it's just, just a it's just a little thing. And not thinking that what we're communicating should represent who we follow, and not only his truth, because everybody's trying to make a truth stand, but also the grace of God. And that's a tension, and that's where we need to pray before we post, pray before we tweet. Take it to the journal, take it to your journal before you post it. I think that's a healthier way to process. If you're dealing with something, I find a lot of people just go straight there. And have we gone to the Lord with it? Have we gone to a close, trusted friend with it? Have we journaled it? Have we given it to the Lord before we've blasted the internet? And
So
people, here's the thing: if you're young looking for a job, when you go for a job interview, they will look at your resume for about a minute or two, and guess what they're going to do? They're going to look at all your social media. So if you're young listening to this, what you post on the internet will be good or bad later on. People will go look at what you do.
well, I've worked
I
for
mean,
a past.
that's the new barometer, and pastor too. If you're a
Well,
pastor
I
trying
worked.
to apply for a job, man, there.
I worked for a pastor, and this pastor came up to me and he said, "Look, this is not my thing. Here's some individual we're looking at for this position. Can you go? Can you go? Can you go find them and stalk them on the internet and find out?"
Mhm.
And so the first thing I did was go to their Facebook, check out, hey, how are they doing on Facebook? And I was able to report back. And I said, it seems as if, and I said it seems, because
Mhm.
again, you don't know, based off of what I found on social media. They love their family. They love this. They do this. They did yada, yada, yada. But I could get a picture of that person. I ended up hiring that person, right? So there's good things that come out of that, right? If they look at it, it's a good
Mhm.
thing, right?
Mhm.
And sure enough, the things that individual posted on their social media was things that they were passionate about.
Mhm.
And so yeah, yeah, and I think we have to just be cautious on whether or not we're caring more about what people think of us. How
Mhm.
many likes we get, how many hearts we get, who
Mhm.
commented, who didn't comment, who
Yeah,
who responded, who didn't respond. If we care more about that than we do of who God thinks we are and who God,
that's right.
who, yeah, who we were created to be as
Yeah.
His child, right?
Well, it's interesting. You mentioned Facebook earlier,
Right.
and I love what you had to say. It hit me this last week as I'd seen the post or whatever, and I didn't read a lot about it or watch the videos, but huge brand like Facebook, billions of dollars a year. Mark Zuckerberg, which is just a fascinating guy, interesting guy. He is, in a way, think about it. He's got billions of dollars and he's unsatisfied with where they're at and wants to create a digital meta world where you could create your own environment to find some type of satisfaction. Think about it with me. A guy that could buy anything he wants is not satisfied with this world he lives in and wants to create this digital. Of course, I know it's money behind it. It's much more than some
Well, and some people
per,
would say it's
but
visionary, Josh.
yeah,
It's
it's visionary, and,
visionary.
and I think it is. I think that is where things are going. I'm not saying, oh,
Right.
it's almost like, okay, what do we do as Christ followers? Always looking to the Great Commission, but it's like I can imagine people in 20, even 10, 20 years sitting in their houses with VR glasses on that never leave their house, but they have this other life that they've made friends, and they just don't even, I mean, just think about it.
Well, I didn't read, so I
It's
don't know what it's going to consist of. But
craziness.
do we work in this other world?
Oh
What
yeah, you
happens
can
in
do
this?
anything. You can create your own identity. Eventually he wants to where you could just explore and you can become whoever you want to be.
Is this
So you're
what
like an
crypto?
avatar. I mean, it's interesting.
Wow.
And I might have misunderstood some of it, but I'm just saying I could see it going that way.
Yeah, I don't want to
And
get blasted being like, all right, these guys who know nothing about social media are trying to talk about social media on the
yeah, and that's
Pastor
probably
Pod.
true, partly. Yeah. But
That's
here's the thing: a guy that has everything that the world says is unsatisfied with his brand, and he's going to rebrand for this meta world. And it made me think of First John 2, verse 15 through 16. It says, "Do not love this world nor the things it offers you. For when you love the world, you do not have the love of the Father in you." Verse 16, "For the world offers only a craving for physical pleasure, a craving for everything we see, and pride in our achievements and possessions. These are not from the Father, but from the world." And so, what the world is teaching us, and that's what the enemy does, he uses any tool, whether it's social media or anything, to live for physical pleasure, to live for just what we see, and to live for pride in our achievements and our possessions. In other words, to live a materialistic life, that
wow.
is somehow going to make us content and fulfilled. And social media always leaves us hanging. It doesn't give us the answer. It doesn't bring satisfaction, because guess what? There's always someone that has more or less or whatever. They've got less this or they've got more that. And it's, if we base our lives off of our platform or whatever it might be, it never satisfies.
Yikes. Yeah. And so, yeah, we could easily paint a picture of how social media can be bad or can cause poor decisions and things of that
Mm-hmm.
sort. But is there a way that we can, as leaders, as leaders of any kind capacity, but this is
Mm-hmm.
the pastor pod, so even within specifically within the context of a local church, is there a way that we can leverage social media for good? Is there a way that we can create a healthy platform to be able to communicate and to talk and to use what is here and as
Yeah.
do we do have access for good, right? And so when I think about that, and when I think about the concept of how I can leverage social media for good, and not only focus on the dangers and the
Mm-hmm.
unhealthy part of it
Mm-hmm.
and things of that sort, because those are easy for me to gravitate towards,
Oh
right?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But is there a way, right? And so not to leave everyone hanging going, well, social media, they just said social media is
Yeah.
bad,
They just went, yeah. Sounds like they don't like it.
but it's not. Like, it can
Mm-hmm.
be good. And I think there is some things that you can do, right? And so I think one of the things you can do first and foremost is just be real,
Mm-hmm.
be yourself. You said
Yeah.
earlier, I think I want somebody who meets me in person.
Mm-hmm.
I want, if you meet me in person, I want you to think, okay, that's the same guy I see on Facebook, Instagram, whatever. That's the same guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's not a
Yep.
different person, right? That's
Right.
oh, I didn't expect that, right? I'm thinking about your friend Brandon again. Like, you meet me and you're like, oh, I thought you'd be taller.
I thought
'Cause
you'd look different.
I thought you'd look different, right? I follow you on
Yeah.
social media. I
Be
thought you'd
real.
be a different person. Be
Yeah.
real.
That's
Be
such a good
real.
truth. I agree so
Um,
much. That's good.
Another thing I think you can do in order to leverage social media to make a good, healthy platform is to seek to
Mm-hmm.
add value. And I
Mm.
think this is extremely important because um, add value to people's lives, right? It's easy
Mm-hmm.
for us to get on there and criticize something,
Yes.
criticize a public figure or a
Mm-hmm.
leader for something they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're just joining a party, or you're just joining a crowd.
Mm-hmm.
But what value could you add to someone's life? How can you encourage someone? How can you,
Yeah.
encourage,
Yes.
you know, those that are struggling right now or suffering, right?
Yeah.
There's things about it. So again, that aspect of being an encourager is huge
Mm-hmm.
in adding
That's
value,
huge.
right? And then last and
Yeah.
foremost, this is not going to come as a surprise if you know me, but use it as a way to point people to your faith,
That's
in
good.
some way, shape, or form. Point people to your faith. That's what we're called. You said earlier,
Mm.
what do we do? Always come back to the Great Commission. Listen, I asked a question to our church this past week, and
Mm.
I said, listen, what are you living? If you're not living for Jesus, what are you doing this week? Like, what's the
That's
point?
right.
What's the point of life?
Mm-hmm. That's
Right.
right.
For those who are Christ followers, that's what we're all about. That's what we've
Mm.
done. Right. We've surrendered our life to Christ, and now Christ is the main point. He's the exclamation point at the end of the day. He's
That's right.
what we're striving to do. So social media needs to fall in there, right? If we're
Yeah.
not pointing
That's
people, if
huge.
if somebody can follow you on social media and never know you have a
Mm.
relationship with Jesus, there's something
There's
wrong.
something wrong. Yes.
Something wrong with
Yes.
that. That is you go
It should be
through.
overly abundant. It should just be just like, wow, they really love Jesus,
Well, I understand it. People are like, I don't
without
want to be
being
weird. I don't
arrogant
want to
or,
be weird. I don't want to be weird and Bible
yeah,
thump people. Or I can
yeah, that's
understand that.
different. Yeah. You don't go in there
That's
and yell at people.
not what I'm
Yeah.
saying. What I'm saying is just
All
point
caps.
people. don't ever
Yeah.
post it. Okay, that's another takeaway.
Yeah. A
Don't
little
ever
takeaway
post.
for you.
Don't ever post in all caps. That means you're yelling. That means
Yes.
you're yelling at someone.
Yes.
And another thing is on social. Never mind. We don't want to go down that road of don't.
No, this is good.
I was
So
gonna
I
say
love what you're saying, Jay. It's so good. Be real. I mean,
yes.
be authentic. Don't try to be someone you're not.
That's right.
And, you know, and can we stop with all the gym selfies? Can we just, can we just, can we just stop doing that? Nobody needs to see that.
I'm gonna post a
Send
gym
it to your
selfie.
spouse.
The sad part is, I think I took a picture. I think I took a picture
Well,
of my
no,
home
I'm
gym
okay with
yesterday.
encouraging each other, but it's like, you don't need to flex in every one of them. You know what I'm saying? Not you,
Okay,
Jay, but
I actually don't take pictures of
sorry.
my. I try not to take selfies at all. I
If
don't
there's
like.
other people in it, I'm cool with it. But if
I
it's
don't like
always
the
like,
way I
hey,
look. I tend to not go around pictures. I don't like to be in pictures.
no, but be real. Like, just be real.
Right.
It's so funny how many social media posts are actually like 30 pictures in for that perfect shot. It's not, it's, but I love what you said about add value, be an encourager, uh, point people to faith. I mean,
Yes.
use your platform, whatever it is. If it's your career, if it's your job, it's coaching a sport. Man, we have an opportunity to make much of Jesus and point people to him. And here's another thing I'd say just with that. Just because the culture is outraged with something doesn't mean a pastor has to always post about everything. I think some
Mm,
of us as leaders feel the burden that we have to have an answer on every news article, every big deal. And there are times we need to step in and give a biblical response. I totally have done that. There's also a danger of leaders and pastors feeling like they have to always have an answer to everything.
it's true.
And we can become so distracted that we forget the main mission.
That's right.
So just for some of you that are out there, if you feel that burden that you always have to have an answer for literally everything, you should always be aware, but you don't have to go to social media always with it.
That's right.
That can become unhealthy. So
This has been a good conversation, fun conversation,
yeah,
a little laid back conversation, but a real one that we're all in the midst of trying to navigate this social media world that we live in, because really not having social media, you're kind of out, you're not connected as
mm-hmm,
way as other people
mm-hmm.
are. And I'm grateful for it. I get to connect with you through social media. There's many times throughout the week we're
I
talking through
love it.
social media.
Yeah, I
You're
love that. Being able to see your
you're
pictures
poking
and
fun of me, and uh,
yeah, I think it's such a joy because here's the thing, you're in Massachusetts, I'm down in Southwest Florida. I have friends all over, like you, all
yeah,
over. And
all
so for
over.
me, there's so much joy keeping up with each other,
Yeah,
seeing each other's kids when we can't get together. So it's more of a blessing than it is a negative.
that's right.
And I'm grateful we have that. I mean, think about with all the shutdowns of 2020 and having online worship. I mean, that didn't exist
Right.
years ago. It would have been so difficult to figure that season out. So God has given us tools to use,
That's right.
and it's cool to have it. I do love sending Jay messages about his spelling, but
Thanks
I
for
misspell stuff all the time too,
calling me
though.
out in
Like
front of everybody.
my wife will always like, hey, you need go
So
read that again. So
I
listen,
usually let my wife look at it first and say, "Is this okay?"
yeah.
That was one I didn't, and it bit me big time. I misspelled Christmas. If anybody's wondering what I misspelled, I took it down immediately
It was
because
Christmas. Christmas. So
Christmas,
I just couldn't
Christmas.
let it go. It
Yeah,
was
he couldn't
good.
let it go. And so thanks for all my friends out there who did
It's
not
Christmas time
blaspheme.
though, right? It's November. So
Okay,
we
we
need to
gotta
do a
stop.
poll this week.
We
Who's
gotta stop.
actually celebrating? Are you a
I tried.
Christmas?
That was the poll I was trying to do when you called me
Well,
out
okay.
on that was the
That
poll.
was the poll.
Exact poll was
So
like,
what
hey,
was the poll? What did it end up being? What was the
well, it
final
was high.
tally?
There's so many people who are more Christmas. They're
It's good.
Christmas.
It's good.
They're Christmas. So
Christmas.
yeah, I'm not ready. My family usually doesn't do anything until after Thanksgiving.
Right.
That's just who we are. But anyhow, we're getting a little bit off topic. It's been a good conversation. I'd love to hear back from anybody
Mm-hmm.
who's listening about social media, maybe practices
Yeah.
you've learned or things that you've learned to do or don't do, or lessons you've
Mm-hmm.
learned about social media. In fact, if you are a parent who has teenagers and has raised
Yeah.
teenagers, I'd love to get your feedback on how you can help me. You can help
Yeah.
me. How do I manage this tool of social media with my teenager? And speaking of social media, Josh, we have some social media they could follow, the Pastor
Yeah.
Pod, right?
Yeah. We're on Facebook. We have a Facebook page. We're trying to build it. We're still figuring it out as we go. We're
That's
not
right.
professional podcasters
We're not
at all.
not at all.
So we have a Facebook page. We post our content, Instagram, Twitter. We'd love for you to follow us, and you could interact. And we just want this to continue to be an encouragement to you. If you listen to this podcast, more than anything, me and Jay love to hang out, connect, encourage each other, talk about what we're learning. But we want to hear from you. We hope that if it helps just a couple people through just our conversations, we hope it'll continue your conversation in your life. Maybe you're dealing with some of the same stuff. Just like Brandon had shared some things with me of things God's teaching him, and he's kind of had some conversations built off of our conversation. So that's encouraging to hear. So yeah, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. We have a website, pastorpod.com, where we upload the podcast every week with our YouTube video, as well as the audio. You can track along on Spotify, Apple, Google, and there's a few others that I've never heard of, but you can track along with those.
They're there.
They're there. Yeah, there's some ones I didn't know about. So
we grabbed at Pastor Pod just because we could.
Just at Pastor Pod. Yeah. The Pastor Pod.
So yes, the Pastor Pod. So just to be clear, we don't have the tickety talk.
Not yet, unless you want to take the lead on that one. That'd be. I might have to get one just to see.
I'm really not good at TikTok. I make a fool of myself on there, but it's again for my daughter. But anyhow, listen, thanks for joining us on the Pastor Pod. The conversation's been good, but I hope it doesn't end right here. So we'd love to continue that conversation. Email us, thepastorpod@gmail.com. Follow us on social media. Give us a shout out. We'd love to hear back next week. And next week, Josh, we have a guest. We have our second guest coming on.
Yeah, second guest.
Looking forward to having that conversation. And so until next time, we'll see you.